Hey gang, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys taking some time to check the video out. Always much appreciated. And guys, today we are going to have sort of a detailed conversation on shad in lakes. Shad, and you can also maybe include blueback herring on that, primary forage fish for bass in any lake across the country, because there are some things that I have found out about shad that sort of break myths a little bit, and there's some things that everybody needs to know about it that will really clue you in on how and where you need to be fishing at. And I think there's sort of an oversimplification a lot of times when people talk about shad in terms of seasonal patterns. So I just want to share with you guys sort of a wide-ranging discussion on what I have seen in my own fishing regarding shad in your own fishing, how it can really help or hurt you a little bit. Also, guys, just a quick reminder, I wanted to invite everybody out there to please swing by and check out my Fish the Moment lake map breakdowns we got for our winter months right now. This is a great resource to learn more about your favorite lake for wintertime fishing or any season of the year. I'll put that link in the description. And once again, thank everybody for using my tackle warehouse link that I put in the description if you need to order any tackle. And we also got the Black Friday link in there at Tackle Warehouse if you guys want to check out some sales. So much appreciated there. Okay, guys, shad, it's if you fish for bass, you've heard of shad, and shad there's a lot of theories about shad and what bass do and how they follow it. And I'm going to share with you guys sort of like what I have seen to be true in my own fishing with shad. And the reason I wanted to do this video is today, what I found out at the lake. I was on an on the water lesson at Stockton Lake today up there. Fishing was really tough. I went up there today thinking we were going to catch them shallow, because when we got up there this morning, it was cloudy and windy. Water temperatures were around 60 degrees. And when you got 60-degree water temperature in the fall and you got clouds and you got wind, all the experience I have in bass fishing tells me that you can catch fish power fishing shallow under these conditions. Guys, we couldn't hardly get a bite doing that. It was like there was no fish shallow. And after about the first 3 hours, it really, really puzzled me what was going on, because literally, I think that's the first time I have seen such perfect conditions for fall time shallow fishing, and the fish were just gone. As I was working through the area, on my 2D sonar, I didn't see much activity in like 10 foot of water or less. I kept sort of an eye on it to look. I didn't see much shad. I didn't see any shad flickering on the bank. We weren't catching any fish. I kept telling, my client, we were out there today, it's like, God, this is such perfect conditions. I don't understand why we're not getting bit. So then we were running around I started hunting fish. I started looking to running some other patterns, and I was idling down this bluff bank, working my way up to a point in about 40 foot of water, and I started noticing it was thick with shad. The shad were 40 feet deep. Off of this bluff, and I'm talking there were tons and tons of shad 40 foot deep. And we spent the rest of the day fishing around. I kept my eye on the depth finder, and I didn't see any sign of any shad anywhere except in that 40 foot zone. And we couldn't catch any fish shallow. We wound up catching, probably, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12, smaller fish shallow, only one keeper out of the whole bunch. And I started realizing the reason that even though we had a perfect fishing day, those fish weren't up there is because almost every dang shad in the lake, for whatever reason, was 40 foot deep. Now those fish, obviously, if you were a live scoper, you could have taken advantage of that. That was probably ideal live scoping scenario out there. But those fish, for whatever environmental reason, it could be a combination of water temperature, water clarity. I think the lake was turning over. Those shad were very deep out there. And that should give you a clue right there. If you start noticing shad at a certain depth zone, I don't care if it's 40 foot deep or if it's up on the bank or whatever, you sort of have to key in on that based upon the conditions that you're fishing. Now, sometimes the shad are all over the place. It's like I've seen situations where you've got big shad schools that are just out roaming in the middle of the lake on the surface. They're up on the bank, they're in the back of a cove, they're just all over the place like that. And in a situation like that, things can be a little bit different. Normally fishing is a little bit more consistent. I remember, I'll give you another scenario with that too. I was fishing last fall up at Lake of the Ozarks, and it was just like that. It was November, and the shad were thick everywhere. You'd go in the back of a cove and there'd be big black balls of shad. They'd be out on the points, they would be everywhere. And we wound up catching fish about anything you wanted to do. You could catch them flipping a jig on docks. You could throw them, catch them on a crankbait on a rocky bank. You could catch them on a topwater plug out on the main lake. For whatever reason, the fish were scattered, shallow and deep, and there was just a lot of fish roaming. But when you got shad that are isolated in a certain depth zone like that, you better be fishing that particular depth zone. Because like today, if I would have had it to do over again, I'd probably would have taken like a jigging spoon or, some type of a, swim bait out there and tried to fish those, deeper schools of shad that I was seeing out there, even though I didn't want to have to fish like that. But, man, it's one of the things that's a big mystery to me also is why shad are at certain areas at certain times, because shad feed on plankton and algae, and therefore a lot of times wherever you find the shad and the plankton and the algae, that's where you're going to find a lot of shad at. That's just what they do. They chase that around. So the only thing that I can figure, like today looking back there, was that with the lake turning over and you have a lot of mixing of the sediment and the algae and the plankton in the water, maybe there was, more plankton at that depth. Maybe the plankton wasn't up shallow with the turnover, right? It's another one of those mysteries of fishing out there. But the point of the video I want to make here, guys, is pay close attention to the shad where they're at. I mean, it doesn't matter what time of year fishing, it doesn't matter what depth you are, and try to formulate some type of a game plan around that. Because in my opinion, when bass are after shad, that's an easy meal for them, and it's not their preferred food. I do not believe that shad is the preferred food of a fish. I believe that the preferred food of a bass is a crawdad. I think that there's more nutrients in a crawdad overall. It's like if they can get a crawdad, I think they're going to take a crawdad over a shad. But obviously shad a lot of times are a lot more accessible and easier for them to get, and they don't have to expel as much energy under certain situations with that. So just sort of another one of those mysteries in fishing that we really don't understand. I've been in situations before where I didn't see any shad, and I've done really good before fishing. Like today, I've had days where I've had outstanding days fishing shallow, and I can't see a shad anywhere shallow. And then other days out there, I've had days where there shad are everywhere, and I can't get a dang bite. I might be able to catch a white bass or something like that, but the bass, for whatever reason, aren't there. So point of the matter is, guys, is when you're thinking about shad and talking about shad, there's no one shoe that fits all. It's like I wish I could give you a definitive answer, but if I could give you one thing, if I could leave you with one thing as far as shad goes, the shad depth is more important in a clear water lake than it is a dirty water lake. In a dirty water lake, the bass are not going to be keying in on the shad as much as they do on a clear water lake when the shad are really thick at one depth. For example, when you're on a clear water lake and you've got a lot of shad deep, a lot of times you're going to have bass that are following those deep schools of shad. Not so much if you have shad in a dirty water lake that tend to be up higher in the water column out there. So from that standpoint, I think that when you see deep shad on your electronic units, pay attention to them more in clear water and less in dirty water out there. So anyway, I don't know if a lot of that makes sense. I'm just sort of throwing some ideas out there that what I've seen with it. Ultimately, it's just another one of those things in fishing that's sort of a mystery to us. And you can go out one day and you think you got it figured out and you think you understand shad and its impact on bass. And then you go out on other days and it completely blows everything out on the water and you're back to square one. So welcome to bass fishing. That's sort of the way it is. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll talk later.